Hey friends, this is Rachel, the Water Fire Mama. This video is for anyone who is in survival mode, whether because the bottom just dropped out of your world or because you are living in a season of constant turmoil. Today, we're going to talk about some ways to get in the driver's seat of your emotions rather than letting them get the best of you. Welcome back. Right now, we're in the middle of a series where we're exploring how to take care of yourself when the bottom drops out of your world. As high impact caregivers, we have to deal with minor emergencies all the time. Things like managing the kid's meltdown at a really inopportune time, or when you discover the feeding tube's been leaking for the last 5 minutes and you have a massive mess of formula to clean up when you're supposed to be heading out the door for an appointment. But then there are those not so minor emergencies. In fact, as a water fire parent, you've probably dealt with your share of earth-shattering crises. The appointment when your child was diagnosed. The accident or illness that, like the tornado that picked up Dorothy and landed her in Oz, picked you up, shook you around, and set your feet on a completely unfamiliar and terrifying path. With other parents that I've worked with, and in my own journey, I know that it's common to have the idea that if I stop, if I give space to my feelings, they will overwhelm me and I'll never get out of that pit. To shove those feelings down and out of sight so that we can soldier on and get the work done. After all, my feelings about the situation aren't going to change it, are they? Why spend that kind of energy thinking about them, talking about them? On the other hand, sometimes the crisis does overwhelm you. Maybe you become so afraid that the thoughts spiral down to all of the worst case scenarios. Or you have so much anger inside that it comes out unbidden and spills over onto all the people you love the most. Or you feel so sad and defeated that you can't get out of bed. You know you need to do the things, but you can't summon the will to do them because the emotions are just too heavy. As high impact caregivers, most of us have probably been on both sides of that spectrum at least once. It's really important to understand that there are appropriate times for both of these extremes. There's an appropriate time to grieve and be angry about what life has thrown at you, and there's time to wash your face and get on with it. What's not good, though, is to remain stuck in one extreme or go back and forth between the two because your emotions are in charge instead of you. So, if we don't want to vent our emotions and we don't want to suppress them, what should we do? I'm going to teach you the same process of emotion regulation that I teach my clients. But before I do that, a few things are important to remember. Emotions are automatic reactions to our circumstances. Their function is to motivate us to either get more of something by approaching or get less of something by either avoiding or attacking in a situation. The first job of emotions is to keep us safe. For example, we may feel fear when we're approaching a dark street alone and experience the motivation to seek light in other people. The second job of emotions is to communicate with and influence others so that we can repair and strengthen our social bonds. For example, people see that we're smiling and they in turn experience the motivation to come closer and engage with us. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that you can get a head start caring for yourself emotionally by caring for yourself physically. We all know what it's like to be hangry or to be grouchy because we're tired. We can deal with our emotions a lot better when we're rested and fed. If you need some help in this area, go back to my earlier video titled Caring for Yourself Physically When the Bottom Drops Out of Your World. So what is emotion regulation? It's basically a set of skills to help calm ourselves when we're upset and cheer ourselves up when we're down. It's what we can do instead of suffering with our emotions when we suppress or vent them. When we suppress painful emotions, they are going to keep triggering thoughts that keep us feeling stressed, and they will force us to deal with them down the line, usually in a more disruptive way. When we vent our emotions, we often do so in a way that amplifies them and can hurt others by attacking them or devaluing them. But when we regulate our emotions, they help us act on our long-term best interests and strengthen our relationships. So how do we do that? The first step I teach my clients in learning to regulate their difficult emotions is to notice. Pay attention to what you're feeling and what you're inclined to do in the situation. It can help to put a name to that emotion. I'm feeling really scared that my baby is facing major surgery. It makes me want to hide under the covers with her and never come out. Or I'm feeling really angry and resentful that my son just got this diagnosis and won't be able to live a life like other kids his age. It makes me want to close myself off to everyone because they just don't understand what we're going through. Next, acknowledge that you have the right to feel the way you do. It's a terrifying thing for your infant to undergo surgery. And it really sucks to be limited in the things that your family can do because of your child's diagnosis. This is where you give yourself a healthy dose of compassion without judgment. Recognizing that this is a really painful situation that is out of your control is really important in being able to process the emotion and move forward. I want to point out here that there is a difference between venting emotions, numbing emotions, and expressing them in a constructive way. We don't want to vent our emotions by yelling at the medical staff or kicking the nearest loose object. We also don't want to numb our emotions by driving recklessly, binging on alcohol or food, or going on a shopping spree. These things are very likely to harm our relationships and are not best for our long-term well-being. Those activities are very different than expressing your emotions by journaling, crying, or confiding in a close friend or partner. After we've acknowledged and validated our feelings, we want to surrender those emotions and the entire situation to God. We're going to talk more in future videos about where God is when we suffer, but for now, take it from me that laying down the pain and praying to God for comfort and deliverance is an indispensable part of this process. God probably isn't going to instantly fix the situation that's causing me pain, but in my experience, I've always found comfort and strength in this practice. Next, we want to try to think differently about the situation. One effective emotion regulation skill is reappraisal, which means thinking about the situation differently. And often that includes reframing an experience in a more positive light. But when the bottom has just dropped out of your world because of a diagnosis or illness or accident, it'll probably be a while before you're ready to look at the bright side of things or ask what you can learn from the situation. Instead, I think it's helpful to ask how the best version of myself would behave going forward. I can very reasonably and compassionately ask myself to take some deep breaths before responding. Ask a trusted friend to help in a specific way, or seek out answers to my most pressing questions from someone who can give me wise counsel. Finally, focus on what's right in front of you. If during the last step you figured out something practical you can do to make the situation more tolerable, do that and focus all your attention on it. If not, now that we've spent some time processing the emotion, it's time to give it a rest by doing something distracting and soothing. The more senses, sight, touch, sound, smell, taste, that you can implement and tune into during this time, the better. Listen to music while you cook a fresh meal. Take a walk outside or take a warm bath or shower. Remember, numbing our emotions is bad, but temporary soothing distractions can give us the break we need to continue doing our emotional work. Listen, regulating your emotions is not easy, especially when you're in the habit of venting or stuffing them. But once you begin to notice how your thoughts and behaviors influence your emotions and you decide to start handling them differently, you'll see things begin to shift. Your kids, your spouse, and you, especially you, deserve to have the best version of yourself show up and be in charge of your emotions. Remember, most of us are really pretty bad at this in the beginning and even at times far down the road. You're going to find yourself venting or stuffing your emotions and realize you've hurt yourself or someone you love in the process. Please don't get down on yourself. No matter how long it's been since you've noticed your response was not ideal, be compassionate towards yourself. Take some time to process the emotion in your response and what you would like to do differently next time. With practice, you'll shorten the time between experiencing the emotion and taking charge of it. In my next video, I'm going to show you another tool that you can use to help process and ease your painful emotions. In the meantime, grab my free guide to caring for yourself in crisis. The link to get that is in the description. And please hit the subscribe button so you know when I drop new videos. One more thing before we go. If this video was helpful to you, but you or your marriage needs more targeted help to get through the water and fire of your specific situation, I want to extend my invitation to you. I would love to work with you as a coach. Click on my website through waterandfire.com in the description and fill out the contact form so we can get connected. Remember, water fire walkers, you probably don't feel like you have it all together. You may not even feel like you can take one more step, but there is a God who goes before us and who is our rear guard. He's going to carry you through these tough days. He's got you, and I'm here to help. See you next time.